The military base hummed with energy under the bright, midday sun. Rows of uniformed soldiers filled the mess hall, a spacious area where laughter and loud conversations mixed with the clattering of trays and the sizzling sounds of food being prepared. The air smelled of grilled chicken, freshly baked bread, and a hint of strong coffee. This was a place not just for meals, but also for camaraderie, a place where friendships were forged over shared experiences. Long tables stretched across the room, each one packed with soldiers eager to catch up on the latest news from their fellow troops. Some exchanged playful banter, while others sat deep in conversation about upcoming missions or weekend plans. The walls were adorned with posters celebrating teamwork and resilience, reminding everyone that they were part of something bigger than themselves. Among the bustling crowd was a female soldier named Ava. She moved through the maze of bodies with ease, her eyes scanning the room as she looked for a spot to sit. Although she wore the same uniform as her comrades, she often felt like she was under a microscope, her presence both respected and scrutinized. Unlike many of her fellow soldiers, Ava was an elite Navy SEAL. She had undergone rigorous training and had proven herself in challenging situations. Yet here in the mess hall, some still struggled to see her as anything more than just another soldier. As she approached an empty seat, she overheard a group of men at a nearby table laughing loudly. Their jovial tone carried through the air, but there was an edge to their conversation that caught her attention. They started to make jokes about what they assumed were her limitations based solely on her gender. Though she was used to such comments by now, each time it stung a little more. It fueled her determination to show them just how capable she truly was. Ava took a deep breath and decided to sit down near them, hoping that immersion among her peers would shift their views. As she settled into her seat with her tray, she couldn't help but notice how they whispered and pointed at her when they thought she wasn't looking. At that moment, she understood that today might not end as quietly as she hoped. Suddenly, one of the men stood up and made his way over to her table. He wore a smirk that matched his bravado. "Hey there, Ava. Heard you can run fast. Maybe you could run away from this conversation." He jested, his laughter echoing through the hall. Ava felt the eyes of several soldiers turn to her. Tension hung in the air like thick fog. With every ounce of confidence she had built over years of training and service, she raised her chin slightly and replied smoothly, "I'd rather stay right here and show you exactly what I can do." As whispers filled the mess hall, some soldiers leaned closer to catch the unfolding drama. The setting shifted from one of camaraderie to an arena of challenge. Ava's heart raced, not out of fear, but from a rush of adrenaline. She could feel the atmosphere thickening around them. It was clear this was going to be a confrontation unlike any other in the mess hall's history. Ava had always been drawn to the thrill of challenge. From a young age, she excelled in sports and sought out adventures that pushed her limits. Her determination ultimately led her to join the Navy, where she faced a world unlike any she had ever known. After rigorous training at one of the toughest military programs, she emerged not just as a soldier, but as an elite Navy SEAL, a title that came with sweat, sacrifice, and an unyielding spirit. Standing at 5 feet 8 inches tall, her athletic build spoke volumes about her dedication. With short-cropped hair and sharp green eyes that seemed to assess everything around her, Ava carried herself with a confidence that often intimidated those who underestimated her. She was not just there to fit in. She was there to lead and to prove her worth in an environment that often believed women couldn't match their male counterparts. Despite her incredible skills in tactical planning and combat, Ava faced challenges beyond the physical demands of training. Being part of a male-dominated unit meant constant scrutiny. She had heard comments like, "What can she do?" or "Is she tough enough for this job?" echoing through the barracks. Instead of letting it discourage her, Ava used it as fuel for her fire. Every time someone doubted her, she pushed herself harder, running extra miles during training or refining her marksmanship until it was flawless. During one particularly grueling exercise designed for SEALs, Ava's team was given a mission in harsh conditions. They had to navigate through rugged terrain and complete various tasks that tested their mental and physical limits. As they progressed through the day, exhaustion set in for many members of the team. Yet, when others faltered, Ava drove ahead, inspiring not only herself, but also nudging those behind her to keep going. It wasn't long before even the most skeptical began acknowledging her grit and intelligence. However, while she felt like a lioness among lions in training exercises or on missions, life off duty was a different story. The mess hall became a battleground of another kind, one where Ava found it hard to shake off perceptions based solely on gender stereotypes. In quiet moments away from drills and assignments, those judgments echoed loudly in her mind. She often battled thoughts of whether she belonged there as much as anyone else. Despite this internal struggle, Ava's resolve remained unbroken. After all, who could question the strength of someone who had successfully completed underwater demolitions or covert reconnaissance? She carried these achievements like badges on her heart, even if outside the classroom of camaraderie they seemed invisible. As she sat across from the group of laughter-filled tables in the mess hall that day, Ava dedicated herself to flipping misjudgments into respect through action. She resolved that today would be different. Today she wouldn't just be one of the guys, but instead show them that she was equal, not only in experience but also in capability and spirit. With every ounce of preparation trained into her muscles and steeled into her mind from years of being underestimated, Ava braced herself for what lay ahead. Little did they know that beneath her calm exterior thrived an elite warrior ready to demonstrate true strength when challenged. Ava took a deep breath, steeling herself for the confrontation brewing around her. The laughter from the nearby table had shifted into low whispers, and as she glanced over, she noticed the group of men leaning closer together like a pack of wolves eyeing their prey. Each chuckle seemed to embolden them, and it was clear they saw her not as an equal, but as an easy target for their jokes. As one soldier stood up, a tall man with broad shoulders and an air of bravado, Ava's heart raced. She recognized him as Jake, who often led the group in mockery. His smirk was infectious among his friends, but beneath that playful exterior was a serious underestimation of who she really was. "Hey, Ava," he called out, his voice loud and teasing. "Do you need us to carry your groceries next time? Or are you still writing down all your little girl tips on how to survive in here?" The table erupted in laughter, while Ava's face flushed. Their confidence came not just from their camaraderie, but from a shared belief that her being a woman made her less capable. It frustrated her that they couldn't see beyond their biases. She had completed missions that required immense strength and strategy, skills these men would envy if they only knew. Jake swaggered a few steps closer, leaning against the edge of her table with exaggerated casualness. "Come on, we're just looking out for you. You know how tough it can be out here." His sarcasm dripped like venom while his friends encouraged him with exaggerated nods and jeers. Ava felt the weight of their gazes pressing down on her. She could almost hear the thoughts behind their eyes whispering doubts. Can she really hang with us? What has she done to earn respect? As more soldiers turned to watch the unfolding spectacle, It felt like every laugh echoed louder and louder in the vast space of the mess hall. Feeling cornered both physically and emotionally, Ava clutched her tray tightly. In this moment, she was not just fighting against them. She was also battling against years of proving herself again and again. This wasn't her first time facing such scrutiny, yet each incident felt fresh, like stepping onto a battlefield where the odds seemed stacked against her. "Listen," Jake continued, narrowing his eyes playfully as he leaned even closer. "You're really strong, at least for a girl, but maybe stick to what you're good at. I hear there's a baking class starting soon." The laughter grew again, creating a wave of energy that rippled through their group. Ava's resolve strengthened with each mocking syllable he uttered. She thought about all those early mornings spent running until her legs burned, or evenings spent honing combat skills until she dropped from exhaustion. What these men failed to see was that every little effort contributed to building the warrior within her, the one who had come through intense training unmatched by many. "Today," she whispered to herself under her breath, "I will show them." The fire ignited within her as she looked up at Jake and his friends with unwavering determination. If they thought they could dismiss her so easily because of stereotypes, they were about to learn exactly what it meant to underestimate an elite SEAL. She clenched her fists slightly under the table as tension filled the air between them. Everything was about to change in this mess hall showdown. As Ava sat at the table, tension crackled in the air like static before a storm. Jake's laughter rang out again, this time sharper and more challenging. "What's the matter, Ava? Cat got your tongue? Or are you just thinking of clever ways to run away from us?" There was a palpable shift. The camaraderie at their table dissolved into a more sinister energy, filled with the smooth edges of intimidation. Jake stepped closer, now towering over her like a shadow blocking the light. He leaned in, invading her personal space while his friends snickered behind him. "You know, they say you've got to be tough to make it here. But let's face it, someone like you just won't cut it in real combat." The other soldiers nodded in agreement, their laughs punctuating his words as they joined in on the intimidation tactics. Ava maintained her composure, narrowing her eyes slightly, but refusing to back down or show vulnerability. She wasn't about to give them the satisfaction of seeing her flinch or waver under their scrutiny. Instead, she kept her breathing steady, each inhale filling her with resolve. She recalled all those early morning runs and late-night training sessions where she had pushed through pain and exhaustion. "Let them underestimate me," she thought fiercely. "Why don't we put that theory to the test?" Jake continued, sensing he was getting a rise out of her. He straightened up, arms crossed over his chest in an exaggerated pose of mock strength. "How about a little challenge? You and me. Let's see who can run laps around the track faster." Sneering laughter erupted from behind him, urging on his bravado. The others were clearly enjoying this spectacle, waiting for a moment of weakness. "What do you say, Ava?" His voice dripped with condescension as he awaited her response. "Think you can keep up with a real soldier?" In that moment, Ava could feel several eyes bearing down on her, some intrigued and others unyielding in their expectations that she would crumble under pressure. Yet deep within her, something sparked to life. It wasn't anger that propelled her now, but a fierce sense of duty to show who she truly was. With a calmness that surprised even herself, Ava slowly rose from her seat. "I don't need to prove myself through comparisons," she replied evenly, meeting Jake's gaze without flinching. "I've already done that on missions where every second counts." The shock registered on Jake's face. He didn't expect such a collected response amidst his taunts. "Oh, really? What have you done that's so special?" He scoffed, but his tone wavered slightly as disbelief flickered across his features. Ava took a step forward, feeling grounded despite their numbers. "Let's just say I've faced challenges far beyond this mess hall," she replied confidently. There was an undeniable strength in her voice now, a quiet assurance built from countless hours of training and real-life experiences. For a brief moment, silence reigned as their laughter faded into an uneasy hush. In that instant, Ava realized that calm could wield more power than aggression and mocking laughter combined. She understood they might not fully grasp who she was yet. Her physique may suggest one thing, but today she would demonstrate that true strength came from within. With every gaze transfixed on her, Ava stood tall against their intimidation tactics, a warrior poised for her moment in battle. As Ava stood firm against the jeers of Jake and his friends, her mind flashed back to the grueling days of her training that had shaped her into the soldier she was today. It was a memory formed in sweat, pain, and determination, a stark contrast to the mockery echoing in the mess hall now. The scene shifted to a muddy training ground where recruits were put through the paces under the watchful eyes of stern instructors. The sun hung high in the sky, casting long shadows over the obstacle course. Ava was knee-deep in mud, her uniform drenched as she crawled through an empty drainage pipe, one of many challenges designed to test their limits. She could hear her fellow trainees grunting and panting around her, pushing forward as they faced the harsh reality of Navy SEAL training. "Keep moving! You're not done yet!" shouted one instructor, his voice cutting through the air like a whip. Ava felt her muscles screaming in protest, but she pushed herself harder. She recalled how each day required more than just physical strength. It demanded mental resilience. As she emerged from the pipe, gasping for breath but filled with fierce determination, she knew she had what it took to endure. Later that week, during a night dive exercise, darkness enveloped them as they plunged beneath the surface of the ocean. The cold water numbed her limbs, but Ava focused on her breathing, knowing every second counted. With her team beside her, they navigated underwater obstacles with precision, relying on trust and communication built from countless hours of practice. The mission wasn't just about physical prowess. It was about teamwork and unyielding spirit. In another vivid flashback, Ava found herself on a simulated rescue mission deep in hostile territory. The adrenaline kicked in as she moved quietly through dense foliage, using stealth tactics learned during months of training. Her heart raced, not from fear but from exhilaration, as she executed every movement with purpose. She used hand signals to communicate with her team members, each gesture precise and practiced, and when they successfully extracted their target without detection, there was no greater feeling of accomplishment. Those moments embedded in her memory fueled Ava's fire as she stood in the mess hall facing Jake's taunts. She thought about her comrades who had pushed through similar struggles alongside her, those who understood that overcoming obstacles was part of their identity as SEALs. Each drop of sweat spilled during late-night training sessions or early morning drills had brought them closer together, fostering an unbreakable bond. Now back in the present, Ava felt empowered by those memories. They served as a reminder that she had faced far greater challenges than anything these soldiers could throw at her now. The strength she had cultivated over years of rigorous training and missions would not be overshadowed by their mockery. With renewed confidence surging within her, Ava looked directly at Jake and his friends. "You all think this is a game," she said calmly but firmly. "But I've fought battles that truly matter." In that moment, she wasn't just standing up for herself. She was embodying every ounce of resilience that had brought her here. A warrior ready to define her own path amidst doubt and ridicule. As the laughter from Jake and his friends faded into a tense silence, Ava felt an electric charge in the air, and she knew this was her moment. The mockery had gone far enough. It was time to take control of the situation rather than let it spiral further. Her tactical training kicked in, and she began to devise a plan that would showcase her skills while turning their ridicule back on them. "Why do we need to run laps?" Ava said, her voice steady and confident as she addressed Jake directly. "Let's make this more interesting." She scanned the room, noting the various obstacles in the mess hall, chairs, tables, and even the food trays stacked at the end of a nearby table. "How about an obstacle course? You think you can keep up with me through that?" Jake's expression shifted from smugness to surprise, uncertainty flickering in his eyes for a moment. The other soldiers perked up as they caught wind of her challenge. "What do you mean? You think you can outsmart us with a little game?" He scoffed, but there was a hint of hesitation in his tone. Ava stepped forward, using her body language to project confidence. "I'm not just talking about speed," she replied smoothly. "I'm talking about strategy and agility, something I've trained for extensively." With each word, she felt the gathered crowd shift in their opinions. They were no longer just spectators. They were intrigued. She motioned toward a group of chairs stacked by the wall. "We can set up a course right here. We'll navigate through these obstacles and see who finishes first." The idea hung in the air like a challenge waiting to be accepted. As murmurs spread through the crowd, Jake's bravado began to falter. Ava could see that he was weighing his options, either accept her challenge or back down after instigating so much tension. The other soldiers were now watching him closely, eager for him to make a choice. "All right then," Jake finally said, trying to mask his uncertainty with bravado. "You're on, but don't cry when you lose." Ava smiled internally. This was exactly what she wanted. She began outlining the course quickly but effectively, explaining how they would weave through the chairs and finish at the far end of the hall where two large trash cans stood ready for them to leap over as they crossed the finish line. "Let's add something extra," she proposed with a mischievous glint in her eyes. "If I win, you all have to help me clean up after dinner tonight. And if you win, well, I'll think of something." The other soldiers nodded excitedly at the prospect of such stakes. It was clear that Ava had turned their intimidation tactics into a playful competition that challenged their assumptions about her capabilities. As preparations began for the makeshift obstacle course, Ava felt adrenaline surge through her veins, not from fear or doubt, but from excitement and purpose. This was her chance to show Jake and his friends that underestimating her had been their biggest mistake. With everyone gathered around, anticipation filled the air as they lined up at the starting point. Ava took one last deep breath before focusing on what lay ahead. She knew this was not just about winning or losing, but about shifting perceptions once and for all. As soon as they yelled, "Go!" Ava surged forward with everything she had, ready to prove that being underestimated only fueled her resolve and determination to succeed against all odds. As the "go" echoed through the mess hall, a surge of adrenaline coursed through Ava's veins. She launched herself forward, her feet pounding against the floor as she navigated through the chairs with nimble precision. The cheers and shouts of her fellow soldiers faded into the background. All she could focus on was the course ahead of her, and Jake trailing closely behind. Ava adroitly ducked beneath the first set of chairs, using her body's natural agility to slide through narrow spaces. Her heart raced, not from fear, but from the thrill of proving herself in this unexpected showdown. Pushing herself harder, she could hear the sound of Jake's heavy footsteps, gaining ground, but she refused to let that distract her. Reaching the end of the first stretch, she quickly calculated her move. She pivoted sharply, executing a perfect roll over a food tray instead of just stepping around it. In her training, she had learned that evasive maneuvers like these could make all the difference in tight situations. As Jake stumbled slightly over his own feet attempting to follow her lead, a buzz of excitement rippled through onlookers watching the competition unfold. Next came the obstacles they'd chosen strategically, a line of tables. Instead of running around them, Ava leaped onto the first table, launching herself off and flipping onto another without breaking stride. It was an exhilarating moment. She felt alive, and just for a second, everything else melted away, the doubts and mockery from earlier replaced by pure determination and competency. "Keep up, Jake!" Ava called out playfully as she cleared yet another set of chairs. Taking an early lead fueled her confidence as she navigated through what seemed like increasing complications. A stack of trays, more chairs, and even a slick spill on the floor. Each obstacle illustrated her training as a SEAL. She didn't just rush through, she assessed each area before committing to her next move. With each passing second, Ava felt the tide shifting. The other soldiers watching began to cheer for her as they realized this was more than just physical prowess. This was strategy at work. Ava combined her tactical knowledge with raw skill, knowing exactly when to push harder and when to play it safe. As they approached the final stretch leading to the trash cans, she spotted Jake hot on her heels, but struggling with his footing. Determined not to let him catch up, Ava executed a deep pivot around a corner, hooking her foot on a chair for leverage as she spun around in a quick burst of energy. In one graceful motion, she leaped over the trash cans just as Jake thundered toward them. He miscalculated just how high he would need to jump to clear them. Instead, he collided awkwardly and landed with a loud crash that drew gasps from the audience. Ava hit the ground running and crossed the makeshift finish line with arms raised high in victory as cheers erupted around her. The thrill washed over her. She had not only completed the course, but also proved herself in front of those who had doubted her abilities. Jake lay on the ground amidst overturned trash cans while laughter echoed around him. A mix of disbelief at his fall and triumph for Ava's victorious stance. As she turned back to face him, there was no dominance in her expression. Rather, it was one of compassion mixed with firmness. "Maybe now you'll think twice before underestimating someone," Ava said, a smile playing on her lips. The crowd roared their approval at both her victory and words. No longer mere soldiers in opposing sides, but comrades showing mutual respect after an unexpected battle had drawn them closer together. As Ava stood victorious at the finish line, arms raised in triumph, a new energy rippled through the mess hall. The initial shock of her performance hung in the air, but quickly gave way to an eruption of cheers and applause from her fellow soldiers. They had witnessed something extraordinary. A woman not only holding her own, but thriving in an environment where many had underestimated her. Jake, still on the ground amidst the overturned trash cans, scrambled to his feet with a sheepish look. He glanced around as if searching for support, but instead found a crowd rallying behind Ava. Their laughter had shifted from mocking to admiration, celebrating her impressive display of strength and skill. The atmosphere transformed from one of rivalry to camaraderie as soldiers began to approach Ava eager to congratulate her. "Nice moves out there, Ava," called out one soldier from across the room, clapping his hands together enthusiastically. The comment encouraged others to join in the chorus of praise. "I didn't think you'd pull that off so flawlessly," another chimed in, admiration lacing their tone. Ava felt a swell of pride within her as she absorbed their reactions. It was a validation she had long sought, but hadn't expected to achieve in such an explosive manner. This was not just about winning a challenge. It was a moment that had shifted perceptions and bridged gaps that had once seemed insurmountable. Several soldiers approached her with outstretched hands and genuine smiles. "You really showed us what you're made of," said Sam, one of Jake's friends who had previously joined in on the mockery. His face reflected sincerity as he clapped her on the shoulder. "I underestimated you. I won't make that mistake again." Ava smiled back at him, appreciating his honesty and willingness to change his perspective. It was moments like these that reminded her of why she fought so hard against stereotypes. She wanted others to see that capability knows no gender. As more soldiers surrounded her, Jake hung back, watching with an uncertain expression. His bravado had evaporated with every cheer for Ava's victory. He briefly met her gaze before looking away, embarrassment etched across his features. Deep down, he knew this moment would haunt him. It was a humbling experience for someone who always prided himself on being tough. "Let's get some food," Ava suggested playfully, trying to keep the mood light while also shifting focus away from Jake's humiliation. The group erupted into laughter again as they began to move toward the serving line together, now united by their shared experience. While they waited for their meals, conversations flowed freely. Questions about training techniques and stories of past missions filled the air. Ava found herself sharing snippets of her journey as a Navy SEAL while making jokes about her training mishaps along the way. This added humor brought them all closer together. In that moment of connection and respect forged through competition, Ava realized how far she had come. Not just in proving herself physically, but also in changing hearts and minds within the ranks of her peers. The challenge had been about demonstrating strength, yet it turned into something much deeper: mutual respect and understanding. As they settled down at a table together with trays piled high with food, Ava felt grateful for this newfound camaraderie among them. The invisible walls built by doubt were slowly crumbling away with each shared laugh and story exchanged over lunch. She knew this day marked not only a personal victory, but also a shift within their unit, a step toward greater acceptance and teamwork in a world where everyone deserved recognition for their true capabilities, regardless of gender or background. As the soldiers settled down at their tables, laughter and conversation filled the air, creating a sense of camaraderie that had been missing just hours before. Ava couldn't help but reflect on how quickly things had changed, not just for her, but for the entire unit. The obstacle course had been more than a test of skill. It had reinforced the importance of teamwork and respect among them. In the military, every mission requires collaboration, and each soldier brings unique strengths to the table. Ava glanced around at her fellow soldiers. Some were exceptional marksmen, others strategic planners, and some were skilled in hand-to-hand combat. Each person contributed something vital to their shared goals. She thought about how their varied experiences shaped their teamwork during stressful missions, where reliance on one another became crucial. "Remember," Ava said aloud, capturing the attention of those nearby. "Today showed us that we're all capable of more than we think, together." She felt a sense of responsibility to emphasize this lesson. It wasn't just about individual prowess, but about lifting each other up. Sam nodded thoughtfully as he took a bite of his meal. You're right, Ava. I realize today that I shouldn't have underestimated you or anyone else, he admitted, glancing around at the group with sincerity in his eyes. We all have our battles, and it's our differences that make us stronger. Nods of agreement rippled through the ranks as soldiers shared stories about training missions where teamwork had saved them from failure or even danger. They reminisced about times when one soldier's sudden ingenuity had turned a potential disaster into success, reinforcing that collaboration wasn't merely an ideal but a necessity in their line of work. Ava's heart swelled with pride as she listened to her peers share their perspectives. It was clear that they were beginning to understand what she always believed. Respect for each other's abilities and acknowledging those capabilities was foundational for any successful unit. They were no longer divided by gender or background. They were united by purpose. The conversation shifted toward future missions and how they could better support one another. Ideas flowed freely as they discussed strategies that would ensure everyone played to their strengths, while also working on areas for improvement, something Ava found encouraging. It's important we continue this momentum, Ava encouraged them. Let's keep pushing each other to grow and improve, whether it's in our skills or our attitudes. Her words resonated deeply with the group, reflecting a collective desire for progress both individually and as a team. As plates emptied and camaraderie flourished around her, Ava felt a sense of fulfillment wash over her. This wasn't just a victory in a friendly competition. It was a turning point for their unit, a moment where respect blossomed into something meaningful. Ava understood that overcoming stereotypes was an ongoing journey, but now she felt hopeful, knowing they could pave the way together. The path ahead would be filled with challenges, but if they continued to uplift one another and embrace each soldier's unique contributions, there was nothing they couldn't achieve as a team. With laughter echoing through the mess hall and bonds forming stronger than ever before, Ava realized that this day marked not only her personal triumph, but also a significant step toward fostering an environment where everyone felt valued, an environment built on respect and teamwork that would continue to strengthen their military unit moving forward. As the laughter and conversations filled the mess hall, Ava felt a profound sense of accomplishment wash over her. This day had taught her and her fellow soldiers invaluable lessons about empowerment, resilience, and the essence of true strength. The atmosphere that had shifted from mockery to admiration was not just a reflection of her victory. It was a testament to the collective journey they had all embarked upon. In that moment, Ava realized that strength comes in many forms. It isn't solely measured by physical prowess or the ability to outpace others. Rather, it encompasses mental fortitude, emotional intelligence, and the courage to stand up against adversity. She understood that each soldier at the table brought something unique to the unit. Different backgrounds, skills, and perspectives that contributed to their overall effectiveness as a team. Empowerment wasn't just about proving oneself. It was about lifting each other up and recognizing everyone's contributions, regardless of gender or background. Ava had faced challenges as a female soldier in a male-dominated environment, but she learned that every obstacle she overcame only strengthened her resolve to show others what was possible. Her journey wasn't just hers alone. It reflected the collective struggle of many who had fought similar battles. Ava, Sam said, as he leaned forward at the table, breaking her train of thought. Today you taught us something important. We've all got different strengths and weaknesses, but when we work together, we can achieve so much more. His words resonated with the group as they nodded in agreement. Ava's heart swelled with pride. It was moments like these that reinforced her belief in unity and respect within their ranks. She was no longer just fighting for herself, but for everyone who felt underestimated or overlooked. The bonds formed today went beyond mere friendship. They were built on mutual respect and an understanding that together they could rise above stereotypes. Let this experience remind us, team, Ava continued, her voice steady yet passionate. We are stronger when we support one another. No one should ever feel diminished or doubted based on their gender or background. The soldiers around her listened intently, their expressions shifting from admiration to determination. As they exchanged stories of their personal battles and triumphs, Ava felt a newfound sense of connection among them, a realization that everyone had faced their own struggles in different ways. The shared laughter mingled with reflective moments as they recognized that strength during tough times could be greatly amplified by teamwork. Looking around at her fellow soldiers, their faces bright with enthusiasm, Ava knew this gathering marked more than just a celebration of victory. It symbolized a pledge to foster an environment where all voices were heard and valued. Each soldier left feeling empowered to embrace their unique contributions while also committing to uplift others around them. As the meal wound down and chatter faded into stories of future missions, Ava understood that today would remain etched in their memories, a reminder that true strength lies not only in individual capability, but also in respect for one another's journeys. Together, they were forging a path toward greater acceptance and capability within their unit, proving that when everyone is supported and recognized for who they are, there's no limit to what they can achieve. The spirit of collaboration filled Ava with hope for the future, a belief that empowerment transcends barriers and builds bridges among those dedicated to serving with pride and purpose. In their commitment to each other and understanding of shared strengths lay the foundation for a united military force ready to face any challenge ahead.